Okay, so I know this is pretty messy here and hard to look at just because of all the jumbled wires, but it finally works. So I'll try to do this without hands here. If I press this button, it's just tied into this 9-volt battery here, and then runs to a USB cable that I cut up. It's a charge only cable which runs into the Arduino Trinket. So if I press that button, it closes the circuit, and now everything is running. And the reason why I have it done like this, running into the USB port instead of just wiring this 6-volt into the battery and ground on the Trinket, is because this has a much higher current capacity than the ground and battery terminals. I think this maxes out at 50 milliamps of supply current, and this maxes out at around 500 milliamps of supply current. And since this, well, even though we're using a MOSFET here, it's still going to draw a lot of current to power up that solenoid. So basically, that's how it gets turned on. So we close that circuit, and 9 volts is being sent to this USB port, and then the rest of it, the fingerprint sensor just runs into the 3-volt bus, the ground bus, and then the white and yellow can go into any 2 digital pins. I think I have it in 3 and 4 here, but as long as you define the pins correctly in your code, you should be fine running them to any 2 pins. I guess if you're looking from top to bottom, the rightmost pin of this is a logic level MOSFET. I can put the link to it in the description. The rightmost pin runs basically to your digital output pin. Again, this can be any pin as long as you define it correctly in your code. I run it to pin 0. So it basically just has to be run to pin 0 with a resistor in series. I believe this is like a 5-ish kilo ohm resistor, but I can double check and make sure that that's correct. The middle pin of the MOSFET goes to the purple of the solenoid, and the I believe it's called a Schottky diode that runs to the white and the 3-volt for the solenoid. This is protection for back EMF when this little pin slides back here after being activated, just so it doesn't damage your circuit at all. Now let's see, we have ground running to this bus, which goes to the left pin of the MOSFET, and the black wire coming from the fingerprint sensor. And then 3-volt from the Arduino goes to this bus. That goes to so this 3-volt bus runs and is connected to the white and the other side of the Schottky diode, and it also runs to the red wire on the fingerprint sensor. And it all works. Let me set this down just to demonstrate. So I'm gonna press the button to close the circuit. Sensor lights up. So that, you notice my thumb didn't work the first 2 times. That's why it's a good idea to, whichever finger you're gonna use, put your thumb in there as 3 or 4 different fingerprint IDs. I'll throw a video in at the end here of how to enroll it. But basically what I'm gonna do now is just take hot glue and electrical tape and make sure everything is covered up so it doesn't short out against the aluminum here. And once everything's hot glued, I will mount it all in the inside that little housing there. And I'll show you how to mount the solenoid to the. I'll show you how to mount the solenoid to the top here with these screws. So this is super janky, but I am in state college, so I'm not expecting a bike thief to actually run up and try to rip this thing off of a bike rack. This is some random piece of pretty durable rubber strapping, I guess you could call it. And that is mounted to the top there. I bent it into a U shape, and it's mounted to the top there with 2, I guess you could call them like mini through bolts or whatever. And this, basically, I slide this into there, and then I just tighten it down a ton, and the friction is enough to hold it in place. I tested it while it was hooked up to my computer. The friction is enough to hold it in place while this latch slides over it. So it goes in like that. The latch slides over it, and then it locks in there because the solenoid kicks out and holds it right there. It'll focus, yeah, and that little notch out. So I'm gonna throw this thing together. The button gets mounted to the bottom just by, it has a little threaded portion. Okay, so now the whole circuit is pretty much covered in hot glue in there. And the solenoid is mounted using this little strap, so I loosened those all the way, slid it in there, and then tightened them down just a little bit beyond finger tight because I don't want to rip that rubber strap. And so if we look down in there, you can see once you press that lock down in there, it'll push this in and slide, and then when it gets to the notch out, so it'll push it in and slide here, and when it gets to the notch out right here, it'll allow that to click into place, and then it'll be locked and you won't be able to get it out. So next thing is this is the connector that goes into the fingerprint sensor, which is right here. So I'm gonna fish that up. That goes here, and then the the battery, this momentary switch will go in the bottom, and then this cap kind of threads on there to keep it in. So I'm gonna get that all connected and in there, and then we'll see how it works. All right, so everything's pretty much in there. I don't have the battery in it yet or anything. The button's on the bottom. So before I put it all together, finally, I'm just gonna make sure that it works. I'm gonna push down so the button's activated. And so that was my thumb, which activated the solenoid. If I try this finger, it doesn't work. So we should be good to put it all back together. And so I finally got it working here. Everything's mounted in. This sticks out a little bit, but it's fine. If I use my index finger, it doesn't work. If I use my thumb, and slide it out, and that solenoid kicks back out, so that when you slide it back in, it's locked up. That solenoid is keeping it in there. I'll probably put some end caps or something on it, but this pretty much marks the end of this build. Again, not practical, just kind of like a gag gift, I guess you could say. If you live in a city or a place where security is actually a concern, I would definitely not do this. Or if you do this, probably get a waterproof fingerprint sensor. And the next size up small push-pull solenoid from Adafruit would be a better idea. This one is just so small that you'd probably be able to shear it off if you pulled hard enough on this. Also, aluminum is not the best to use for any type of bike lock. But yeah, a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be, but I'll put some schematics and links to everything that I used in the description, along with the code that I used. And yeah. So basically for the first part of the code, what you're going to do is you're going to download the Adafruit fingerprint sensor library. And then you want to go to File, Examples, and then go down to the Adafruit fingerprint sensor library, and then click on the fingerprint sketch. And this is the sketch that you're going to see when you open up the fingerprint sketch. And basically, so I'm going to exit out of this one. All you got to do to modify the fingerprint sketch to work with your code, with your bike lock, is set your pins in this line. So for example, I used pins 3 and 4 for mine. And then you're just going to add in one of these selection structures. Where is it? I'm trying to look on screen. Well, you're gonna once the void loop starts, just digital write low to your output pin, which is pin 0, since I connected the solenoid to pin 0. And then if you go down to, so once you see if fingerprint OK, serial print found a match, after that, just put these 3 lines of code in. So you're gonna digital write to the solenoid a high voltage, delay, I did 2500 milliseconds. You could probably do anywhere from 1 second to like 4 seconds if you wanted to. And then after that, digital write low voltage to the output pin for your solenoid. And that's really all you have to do. So then just verify this and upload it to your Arduino Trinket. But then don't disconnect it, because after this I'll show you how to enroll the fingerprint that you want into the Trinket.